there is a brand new adaptation of The Running Man, and this one is by Edgar Wright. It stars friend of the show, Glen Powell. He doesn't know he's a friend of the show, but we'd like to think that he is.
Yeah.
It's got a fantastic lineup. William H. Macy, Lee Pace, Michael Cera, Emilia Jones, Sean Hayes, Colman Domingo, Josh Brolin. Just a great lineup for this fantastic 90s throwback of a movie. Now, if you didn't know, the Stephen King or Bachman novel that it's based on was originally adapted into an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. But the Arnie movie that came out in the 1980s wasn't quite a pristine adaptation. And I say that because they probably didn't have the money or the resources or the ability back then to handle the scale of the novel. So in The Running Man, Ben Richards is a down on his luck guy. He's kind of fought this system and he's been blacklisted and he can't get work anywhere. And he's struggling for money and he's got a wife and an ailing daughter and he's got to find a way to get some cash. But in this new dystopia that they live in, reality television, where people get pitted against each other to get money, is entertainment for the elite masses and actually the slum masses as well. It's entertainment for everyone. It's how people are kept in check.
Can I just add, I don't know if it's been done, but somebody really needs to check Stephen King's house for like a time travel machine, because this isn't the first time he's done it, right? Like, there have been so many prescient things, especially with the downfall of humanity that he's predicted.
I mean, as Bachman, he wrote a book called Rage, which he has since let go out of print because it was a book about school shootings. And this was in the 1970s. And apparently there were some school shooters who claimed it gave them inspiration. And King has since allowed the book to go out of print. But incredibly prescient. I don't know if he actually has a time machine. It's possible.
Anyway, sorry, go on.
So, we're in this dystopian future. People like watching reality television, seeing other human beings go up against each other and treat each other badly. The system uses it to oppress them, very much like our reality. And that's where this movie kind of starts. Before we get into the film itself, Bahir, the original Running Man all took place in a kind of American Gladiator situation because obviously they couldn't traverse the country and have this person running out into the world because they just didn't have the resources to do that. Fine.
I mean, they even changed Ben Richards' background, right? Because in the Arnie movie, he's a military guy who essentially decides to not obey an order to kill innocent protesters.
That's right. He was ordered to fire, like this is in the first 30 seconds of the movie, he's ordered to fire upon a group of innocent protesters and he decides not to follow the order and he is sent to prison for it. And then a fake news story is concocted calling him the butcher because he apparently did it and that's why he was sent to prison. Now, that fake news angle is still at play in this movie, but of course it is enhanced by AI and deepfakes and all of the stuff we have with today's technology. So, this adaptation, Bahir, skews a lot closer to the actual novel. So this is a true adaptation of the Stephen King novel in every sense of the word. There have been some minor changes as well as one major change.
Okay.
So the minor changes are related to character in that the novel is a lot darker because they don't have money. In the movie, Glen Powell's wife works at what is implied to be a strip club.
Okay.
In the novel, she's an actual prostitute trying to get money. And so they've kind of softened the characters up a little bit to make them, I guess, more noble is the word. So those kind of changes do exist. And then there is one massive change at the end. And the ending of the movie is a lot more different to the ending of the novel. Because the ending of the movie has hope. In typical Stephen King form, the ending of the novel is tinged with hope, but is still pretty dire.
Okay.
And I think cinema audiences watching an action movie maybe would not be as accepting of that sort of ending. And so I think Edgar Wright did the right thing by changing the ending. And God knows it made the movie a lot more enjoyable.
Okay.
Now, to the actual film. What did you think?
I thought it was a lot of fun. I mean, we had just caught the original Running Man about 3 days prior. So there was a lot of I wouldn't say comparing, but I was watching it with that in mind because obviously I never read the book. So that was my only reference to the brand, the Running Man, right? So I was referring to that in my head. But I kind of dropped it about 10 minutes into the movie because, I mean, it was a completely different thing, right? So that's one. Number two, it is a fun sort of 90s-esque action movie. I don't want to compare it to something like Demolition Man, but it's kind of in that vein of...
It actually is. The tone and the mood feels very similar.
Right? Yeah, so it's in that kind of sense. But Demolition Man is the best that has ever been done, so that's fine. But no, I had a fun enough time in the cinema. I will say, this feels like a weird release period. I feel like this could have been closer to summer. Maybe just before, maybe just after.
I think they were probably worried to go up against some of the big summer movies.
Maybe. But this feels weird like a November release.
Like you, I really enjoyed it as well. I thought very few people make movies like this for the cinema. People try and make movies like this for streaming. We often see it pop up on Prime and on Netflix, and they're never quite as good. And I think it's due to the writing and possibly the care and attention that's actually paid to the subject matter. It feels like a lot of those streaming releases are part of the churn, that they just want to greenlight these things so they have stuff for their catalog with major action stars in them.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, this one feels like a really astute adaptation. It feels like Edgar Wright liked the book. He liked Stephen King. He realized that there was something wrong with the first adaptation and that he knew that he could do better. And all of this kind of plays a part in this end result. And it is just so much fun. It moves. Within 20 minutes, the entire premise of the movie is set up. And even within those 20 minutes, there is enough action and suspense to keep you invested and engaged with what is going on. And then the movie just goes. It is non-stop. And every person you encounter is interesting. And it keeps driving the story forward. And it has a lot to say about, like you said, Bahir, prescient matters that plague us today. But of course, none of it is in your face because it is all kind of crouched within this action, bang, bang, explosion adventure.
I mean, my only sort of comment regarding the film would be that in a lot of ways, it feels a little, I wouldn't say it feels a little rushed, but it feels maybe too fast for its own good.
I feel like you can't do a movie called The Running Man and not have it be at this pace.
I feel like there were bits that you could have just taken a beat on, not even storytelling wise, but more of a production thing, because there were moments where I would have liked to have seen him pause instead of just cutting to the next, instead of just jumping forward 4 hours to the next thing that happens. I found myself really needing those little title cards in the bottom corner that said day 2, because that was how fast it was moving. I don't need to watch him sleep, but maybe imply that he takes a meal at some point. I just need a bit of breathing space, I think. Because even not just storytelling, but there were some cuts that Edgar Wright made that were really, I dare say, awkward jumps. It gave me a bit of whiplash. Oh, wait, hang on, we're 2 days later. Oh, wait, hang on, or not 2 days, but a couple of hours ahead already now. So I feel like bits like that could have helped me on-ramp myself into the movie a little better.
I don't know. I found the relentless pace kind of fun, actually. Also because given that the Running Man game show is supposed to take place over a period of 30 days, it feels like he had to push as fast as he could to make it feel like Glen Powell was being chased and was being hunted and that it was non-stop. And I think you had that feeling because you were exhausted with him. I think in that sense, the edits and the cuts really added to the atmosphere of the movie.
It's very aggressive Edgar Wright edits
Very,
and cuts.
very. I mean, that said, it's interesting to note that Edgar Wright's style has shifted significantly, right? I mean, from the days of Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, Scott Pilgrim, World's End, even Baby Driver saw a bit of that shift. His signature style, he's kind of moved on from that. I mean, he moved on from that with Baby Driver a little bit. And then, of course, he did The Sparks Brothers, which was a documentary film. And then Last Night in Soho was something completely different. And The Running Man 2, while it maintains some Edgar Wright signature moves, for the most part, feels very different with regards to his directorial style. I appreciate that because I think he's changing as a director. I mean, it's not like Guy Ritchie, where when you watch a Guy Ritchie movie, you know you're watching a Guy Ritchie movie. And so it's interesting to see the direction that Edgar Wright is going in, especially given he's making a big studio movie like The Running Man.
I worry that he's becoming a little too generic Hollywood director number 4.
That you're not getting an Edgar Wright movie.
Yeah, I'm not. Yes, you're right. Like for example, even with Guy Ritchie, his later films tend to be a little more neutral in production. There's still his air quotes signature bits, but it almost feels like somebody doing a Guy Ritchie signature bit as opposed to Guy Ritchie doing it. It's becoming a little too. All the cool, sharp edges are being polished out slowly. And I feel like even with Edgar Wright, like Last Night in Soho, I completely forgot that was his. Baby Driver was a lot more, it feels like it was closer to his heart with the music choices, with the way he edits it according to beats and all that. So there's still Edgar Wrightness, but I feel like this one and even Last Night in Soho don't really feel like Edgar Wright movies. I appreciate that there's growth in that, but at the same time, I lament the loss of that style that we used to get.
Yeah, I totally agree with you in that no one makes movies like that. And so he had a very unique style. And I think The Running Man's a very, very good film and a very good adaptation, but it doesn't feel like an Edgar Wright movie.
Yeah.
And I think that would be my one criticism against it, because I would be curious to see, just like how I would be curious to see what that Edgar Wright Ant-Man was, because the Ant-Man we got felt more MCU. And I'm sure the reason the creative differences occurred between Kevin Feige and Edgar Wright was because his version was more Edgar Wright. And so I would be curious to see what an Edgar Wright Running Man would actually look like. But at the same time, I'm glad he's out there making these sorts of movies, because as a director, you can tell how much care and attention he has put into this adaptation.
Oh, yeah.
So much so that we've actually got an excellent adaptation of an excellent Stephen King novel. It must be said, this is yet another step in the Glen Powell heading towards Tom Cruise territory. It feels like that's where he's pushing his career. In another universe, in another decade, I could very much see Tom Cruise playing this part. It feels like a signature Tom Cruise movie, and I think Glen Powell is heading in that direction. And I have to say, he is incredibly watchable on screen. One of the main reasons this movie works so well is because of him, and he can switch between the comedic, the dramatic, the action hero seamlessly. And of course, it must be noted that he is in 99% of this film. Like, he is in every single scene.
I also would like to add the fact that this movie, we're fans of Glen Powell. We've seen a lot of his stuff, but I've never seen him be angry. This is angry Glen. It's not angry. It's fucking rage.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He's raging at the system. And I'd never seen that from him before. Like, so much so that when he's raging, I'm like, is this for real? Because he's got that sly grin on his face, so it almost feels like he's faking the rage.
Right.
But It's not. And I like that there's that range for him. This movie has got a lot of range for him. Yes, it's a fairly soft range, but I like the career that Glen Powell is trying to build for himself. I think the Tom Cruise thing is important because we're fans of the business. So we've spoken privately about how there hasn't really been another Tom Cruise, another Brad Pitt, another George Clooney in a while. And I think Glen Powell, if he plays his cards right and doesn't show up on the Epstein list, I think he could be one of those guys, right? Moving forward in Hollywood.
I know Hollywood's changed significantly, but he has the potential to be the guy that could open a movie, potentially.
Yeah.
And I think that will be interesting. Yeah. I mean, we'll see how The Running Man does. I mean, it is a very exceptional action movie. The other interesting thing about The Running Man, of course, is that the novel was set in 2025. And so when King wrote the novel all those years ago, the novel was actually set in the year 2025.
Wasn't the original Arnie movie set in 2017?
Maybe, but the novel was actually 2025.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I think it's interesting that it's coming out this year, and it speaks to everything that's happening in our world right now with media influence and corporate influence over governments, over us as individuals, with AI and deep fakes and misinformation and false news. Like, the movie hits all of those points within the context of character and everything that's happening in this particular film. And it's completely relatable and entirely frightening because we're maybe one or two steps away from that reality. I was joking with Bahir that when the movie opened, people from the slums kind of walk into this elite area where the rich people live, and it feels very much like Philippines today. I was in Manila recently for the Superman junket, and I'd never been to Manila, and it was exactly that. There were these gates that would let you into the fancy area where the fancy hotel was and the rich people live. And of course, that area was gated off from the rest of Manila, which felt run down and not as rich. Meanwhile, this BCG gated area was like Singapore. It was a drastic contrast. And what they show you in the film feels exactly like that. So we're not far off from that disconnect between the haves and the have-nots. I mean, it's already happening. The movie and the novel just pushes it to the extreme with regards to value of life and media not giving a shit about sending someone out in the world to be hunted for money. I mean, that's it, right?
I've always thought that, haven't they done it? I've always thought that a version of The Running Man would make for an excellent TV show.
I mean, I think if this movie does well, knowing the Ellisons on Paramount, they will probably launch some new reality TV show. Nothing quite like billionaires launching a reality TV show where poor people are pitted against the world for money.
In the movie The Running Man, they take people who are, they say, criminals, and at the end of it they get murdered. But I feel like if you take out the murder bit and you take out the criminality aspect, I think the only problem would be that, knowing the world in 2025, you would get TikTokers who give up their job and make this their mission, to just drive around the US trying to catch the Running Man. I think that would be the only problem. And of course, insurance liabilities of having these people out in the world and property damage, etc. I guess.
There are a lot of things to work through, but you know what? I'm pretty sure the Ellisons are already thinking about it.
I mean, the problem is the Koreans have got the Running Man. They've got that show title.
Oh, yes, that's right.
So that's but the only other problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much like Squid Game, the game, right? On Netflix.
Yeah.
They've removed the murder element, but they've kept the competition element and the betrayal element and all of that stuff. Only people don't actually die.
Anyway, sorry, back to the film.
Yeah, we think you should go watch The Running Man. It is definitely worth your time and money. It is a fantastic throwback of an action movie. And Glen Powell is fantastic as always.
This is probably, well, there are a couple bits coming up, but this is probably like the last bit of fun summer movie that's out now. Because after this is mostly going to be, other than Avatar everything else is mostly going to be awards fair. So if those kinds of films are not for you, you should probably go out and catch this one quickly.
Let us know what you think once you've seen it. You know how to reach out. We're on Instagram on GogglerMY. You can also email us on podcast@goggler.my or send us a WhatsApp on the Goggler hotline 012-524-5208. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Goggler Podcast.